I'm Susan. Welcome to Tea and Games. PeliCon edition. Very hot, very strong tea today. You may notice I've got it in a travel mug because we are going to be talking about going places and doing things. The tea today is Scottish breakfast because after 3 days of PeliCon, I feel like I need a real kick in the seat of the pants. Welcome to new subscribers. I think I've forgotten to welcome you in the last video, and I'm happy you're here. This is a little bit different from my usual thing, but that's okay because we went to a board game convention. I've never been to a board game convention before, and this convention was a small-ish local convention, but by small, I don't mean dozens. By small, I mean hundreds. So not a big convention like thousands, but still a large convention that took over the Galveston Island Convention Center this past weekend, Friday through Sunday. So yeah, we went, it opened at noon on Friday, and we went down middle of Friday afternoon. I guess we got there probably around 3. We got a goodie bag with things in it, a little thingy and that. There were different things in different bags, and I have a bunch of different PeliCon buttons, as it turns out, because they were giving away buttons and stickers. And, oh yes, and a thing for a free appetizer, which we did not use on my badge here. Yeah, PeliCon stickers. If you saw somebody at the convention walking around with a red quiver case, I only stickered these on Sunday. If you saw somebody with a red quiver case, that was me. I didn't see anybody else with a red quiver case. So we got there like mid-afternoon on Friday. We walked around, looked at the vendors. They didn't have a separate vending hall. What they had were vendors around the walls of the main playing room. The only playing room, I should say, the main room, which was a playing room. They had vendors around the walls, and then they had a number of other rooms which had other vendors in them, including some that were selling used games. So we walked around and just kind of looked at all of that. At one of the vendors, like first thing I did, the first room I walked into as soon as we got there, before we even got to the playing hall. We had checked in our badges though, so yeah, there was that. But I walked in and saw Turn-In Taxi used, and I picked this up even though it's missing the meeples, because the board is, the tokens are unpunched and the cards are still in shrink. So if there's nothing else missing besides the meeples, I can just swap in some house meeples, and because I've heard good things about this. It was a Spiel des Jahres winner. It is out of print, so this would be pretty much probably my only opportunity to play it. So I grabbed it, and we're just going to get random meeples to play it the first time. It's in German, so there's like a sheet in there with a translation, but I also downloaded the English instructions while I was there. So we're going to give this a shot with just any old meeples, and then if we like it, then I will maybe deluxify it with some nice house meeples, because there are actually upgrades for this out there floating around on the internet. So I'm kind of pleased about that. We'll see how pleased I am after I play it. Yeah, that was like the first thing I did before we did anything when we got to the convention. I'm buying board games. But then we went to the game library, which was small. It was basically a couple of tables, I think 3 tables in a U with some games stacked on them, and a guy right in the middle checking them out, who was very, very nice and helpful and good at his job, which is exactly what you want for convention personnel. My shirt tail, for some reason, ever since I got this new chair, my shirt tail in back keeps hiking up. I don't know if it's the chair, if it's just me, but it's like in every video since I got the chair, I'm always doing this. Sorry about that. Oh yes, and sorry for the wet hair. I just got out of the shower, but I'm still excited about PeliCon, and I wanted to make the video while I was still excited about it. Because it's like, by the end of the week, I'm going to go, what did we play? No. So we looked at the games. I had a list. I'm not sure if I did this convention correctly, never having gone to a board game convention. Here's what I did. I put some of the little foldy bit bowl thingies into my purse, the smaller size that I have that pop together on the corners, and a small snap together dice tray, which we used both of those over the course of the weekend. So I highly recommend, if you're going to a board game convention, to take some easy snap together, because they lay flat, you know, the ones that have the little doohickeys that snap together. Take some bit bowls. I took 5, and I don't think we used all of them. We used at least 4, I think, on one of them. But yes, definitely take bit bowls and a snap together dice tray. That worked out very, very well. I also took a selection of card games in my quiver case. And I don't need to go over those because we didn't play any of the games in my quiver case. I hauled my quiver case around for 3 days and played no games from the quiver case. And I was really hoping to get Rebel Princess Deluxe Edition played because it requires 3 players, and we got it around Christmas and haven't played it yet because there's only 2 of us. But the quiver case was kind of a fallback because the game library was limited. It was basically what publishers had donated and merged with the Rosenberg Library, game library, and some other miscellaneous things, I guess. It was very small. They had a lot of classic games there. They had a few newer games. They had Wormspan, but I didn't play Wormspan. I was trying to stay away from longer games because I wanted to play more games rather than just a few long games, though, I don't know. But I only saw Worm Game available for checkout once, and it was when we were leaving, having checked something in to go to lunch or something. So, yeah, I don't think that would have worked out even if I had put it on my list. But I made a list of things that I wanted to play because there was a list of the games that were going to be in the game library posted online. The list was only so-so. There were games I saw there that weren't on that list, and there were games that I saw there that, the games that I saw on the list that weren't there. Because what they did is they went to the Rosenberg Library and they swept out their game collection on Thursday before the con on Friday, and anything that was checked out did not get brought to the convention. So the list was not entirely accurate, but it was accurate in the sense that I think it was 274 games on the list, and some of those were duplicates. And not all of those were the Rosenberg games. Some of those were games donated by publishers or other sources. There were duplicates of games, so yeah, there were probably over a couple hundred games in the library. And with the number of people that had, signed to play and everything, I wasn't sure if I'd be able to get the games on my list. So I put a bunch of games on my list, and the other thing that worried me was the number of free play tables, because most of the games for this convention had tables assigned. They were play-to-win games. They were scheduled tournament games. They were games where people had basically set up a table to host a game. That took up most of the play area. There were far fewer free-to-play tables than there were tables that, when you walked in the door, those tables were already assigned for games. So, yeah, Friday it wasn't a problem, but Saturday you really had to hunt to get a free table to play games. And a lot of what happened is that there were a lot of 2-player games with 4 people playing 2 different games on a big 6 to 8 player round table, which is not ideal, but it worked out okay in the sense that nobody had to go begging for tables because there really was not enough free play tables on Saturday. I feel like it's at any given time on Saturday, all the tables were full or there was one open. And a lot of people were playing longer games. And that's, if everybody was playing short, fast games, then tables would cycle faster. But considering that there's going to be a lot of people that they're going to the convention to play those big games, yeah, they could have done with more free tables. I felt like that was just a little bit tight. But Friday, we checked out Jaipur, which is a classic two-player card and token game, which I'd heard about. And I can't show you the box here because it was at the convention. I've heard about it. It is a very fast, very short, with very snappy turns, two-player game. And it's extremely engaging. I mean, this is like a spice trading theme. So, I mean, I was never really interested in it because I'm going like, yeah, well, there are more fun themes. And spice trading themes are kind of a dime a dozen in the board game thing. We now have 2 or 3 spice trading games, I think. At least 2, 3, I'm not sure. But yeah, well, it's going to be 3 probably by the end of it because we are going to get our own copy of Jaipur. We liked it a lot. Oh, one thing I wanted to mention, the weather was highly variable for PeliCon, so if you're thinking about coming down next year, keep in mind that February in Texas, on the Texas coast, can be anything. Driving in to PeliCon on Friday, it was just sucked into fog all over the island. I mean, the convention center is right across the street from the beach, so you looked there and there was the road, something that might have been sand, and then a bank of fog. So you couldn't actually see the ocean when we arrived on Friday. And we commuted back and forth, and I'll get to that in a minute. That worked out not as well as we could have hoped. But that was not anything to do with us or PeliCon. But yeah, when we arrived, Robert looked at that and he's going I expect to see the Elizabeth Dane coming out of the fog. Reference for those of you who like John Carpenter's movie, The Fog. But yeah, so we got there, it was all foggy, we bought a game, we checked out Jaipur and sat down and played it. And it's very snappy. It is very, very snappy. You've got cards that represent different types of spices, and you have got camel cards. The camel cards go on the table in front of you, and there's a row of cards that's the market that's between the players. So your actions on your turn is you can take all the camels, and there is a 5-point bonus token for whoever has the most camels at the end of the game. So you can take all the camels in the line, or you can take 1 spice card, or you can swap spice cards of yours for any number of cards. You can take any number of spice cards in the row, more than 1 if you swap them for cards in your hand or camels. So yeah, having those camels in reserve in front of you, camels are kind of valuable in other ways besides that 5-point token. I used my camels as currency because right at the beginning of the game, Robert was just snatching up camels like mad. Robert is my husband. We're casual weekend board gamers, and he is my primary playing partner. He went all in on the camel strategy at the very beginning, and so I thought, well, I'll just get camels when I can, and then I can use camels in order to be able to take more cards to make sets. The only problem I had is there is a hand limit in this game, because of course there's a hand limit. It would be way too easy if you didn't have a hand limit. So I kept coming up against the hand limit, even with all my camels going onto the table. So that was the only problem I had, was the hand limit with that, because sometimes it meant I had to discard, sell off my spices, and get lower tokens and lower bonuses than I really wanted to, because I wanted to get more cards, but then there's that hand limit. But yeah, you can trade stuff, and it's fun, and it's very fast, and the turns are very, very snappy. We're looking at this and we're saying, yeah, if we had this game, we would table it a lot because it is easy. It's got almost no setup. I mean, you just deal the cards, you lay out a set of cards, stack up the tokens, and the tokens do have to be stacked highest value to lowest. So there is a little bit of sorting, but if you put it away in the box correctly, there isn't really that much sorting. So yeah, I think that if we had this game, it would hit the table very often because we could just slot this game in anytime, and it's very fun. 2-player only though. So we went home before Friday evening because we needed to feed the doggies and let the doggies out. And that is the reason why we decided to commute, because we didn't want to take the dogs and have a hotel room because we weren't sure how barkety they would be. So we're always a little hesitant about that. And it was a place we could commute to within a reasonable amount of time. Theoretically, we'll get to that in a minute. Saturday, yeah, I guess no, we're not finished with Friday. We were running out of time on Friday because we need to get home to the dogs, but I checked out Fort anyway. Fort is a small box leader games game. I have not played any games from leader game. I spent months trying to learn Root and failing. And when I say I spent months, I mean I watched pretty much every video known to man, including the ones that are said to be the absolute best to learn from. I felt like I really had a handle on it. And a lot of the videos I said if you want to learn it, you can get the app and it will teach you, and that's a really good way to go. I got the app and I just had utter hash fail at learning the factions, and the app would not let me advance through the tutorial until I had completed every single faction, and you couldn't even skip. So yeah, I just hit my head against the wall on that because there was one faction I couldn't learn, and so I could never actually play the game on the app. So after months of watching videos and struggling with the app, I gave up on Root. And so I'd never played any leader games. And I know there are other leader games besides Root and Fort. But none of those really seemed to interest me. But the playthroughs I'd seen of Root looked good. But I checked out Fort because thematically, this game is kind of right in our wheelhouse. It's like kids playing in the yard and collecting toys and eating pizza. And they've got like a lookout. And there's even a Dogs and Cats Pets expansion. So thematically, this was right in our wheelhouse. Light, small box game. I had watched playthrough videos. Whoa. Yeah. Sorry, chair. So I thought, yeah, this one I could play. And it's really cute. So we checked out Fort, even though we were running out of time on Friday night. So basically what we did on Friday night is we checked out Root and we ran through a how to play video there at the table, and we laid it all out, and we played like a couple of sample turns and everything so that we felt like we had kind of gotten oriented with the game with the plan that we would pick it up the next day and then play it. And strategically, that actually worked out well. If you're at a convention or something and you're going to be going multiple days, if you don't have time to play a full game of something that you really want to play, you're running out of time, you realize that you just don't have time to play it, not learn it and play it, checking it out the night before, unboxing, doing the layout, running through how to play, some sample turns, just getting oriented with the game, it means you can hit the ground running with the game the next day. And so that worked out really well. We actually did that a couple of days, and I'll get to that in a minute. But yes, learning the game one night and then playing it the next day is something that I would recommend. But yeah, we drove home Friday after learning Fort. I'm looking at my notes here. And foggy again, driving home. But when we were driving, no, it was foggy going home Friday, but we didn't have any problems there. It was Saturday morning when we got up. There was a little bit of fog. It wasn't too bad. It was worse as we got toward the island, but then it burned off. But still, as we're driving toward the island, we're seeing traffic backed up on the other side, leaving the island. TxDOT, in its infinite wisdom, decided to close the causeway to the island on a weekend. Now, even if there was no convention or event going on Galveston Island, the fact of the matter is, on Saturday and Sunday, the city of Houston pours south from Houston down that road across the causeway to Galveston. I mean, we don't go to Galveston very often because the traffic on Galveston has just become a nightmare because it is not a big island and it's very, very packed. There's not a lot of room to move around. But yeah, basically on the 2 days when there would be the single most highest traffic to Galveston, they closed the main access down to one lane to get onto the island, to get off of the island. We had no trouble getting onto the island on Saturday, but we're looking at this cars backed up and we're going like, are they backed up all the way onto the island, on the way onto the bridge? And then more cars backed up and more cars backed up. And the line just keeps going and going and going and going. And we're going across the bridge and there's cars all stuck on the bridge going and going and going. And we just keep going. And we're on the island and the traffic is backed up on the island. It's backed up down the streets on the island because people are trying to go to the mainland. And this was Saturday morning. People leaving the island, the residents, one gathers, to go to the mainland to do things on Saturday. So we're looking at each other and we're going like, how are we going to get off the island? There are two other ways off the island. There is a ferry which takes you to the Bolivar Peninsula way the heck out of the way. And then on the far west end of the island, there is the San Luis Toll Bridge, which also takes you way the heck out of the way. But you don't have to wait for a ferry. And most people use the causeway that was closed down to one lane. So what we were hearing when we got to the con was that there was a 2-hour wait to get off the island. That's how long people were waiting on traffic. And that's not even counting the drive back home after that. So we were concerned about that. We were not able to stay at the convention as long as we would have liked on Saturday, not just because we had to get home to the dogs, but because of the traffic situation we were very concerned about. But Saturday morning we got there, we played Fort. We liked Fort. We enjoyed playing it. But talking about it afterwards, I don't think this is one we're going to get. We liked it, we enjoyed it, we both agree we would be happy to play this game again anytime. But we just didn't feel like it was a game that we needed to have in our collection. It's a good game, and we enjoyed playing it, but I just feel like that if we had it, and Robert agrees with me on this, we were just totally in sync on this. We really liked it, but if we had this game, we wouldn't play it because there are just so many games that we have that we like so much more than Fort. Even games that are longer than Fort, games that are shorter than Fort, games that are the same length of time as Fort. It wouldn't get played very often. And we just didn't feel like this game is just so amazing. I absolutely have to have it so that any moment, because I must play it now, that I'd need to be able to grab it off my shelf and play it. It didn't hit that way for us. I mean, we really liked it, but it didn't feel like one of those must-have, must-play games. It's one of those like-to-have, like-to-play games. And like I said, we'd be happy to play Fort with anybody, anytime. But it's just not a game that we could see ourselves grabbing and pulling off the shelves and playing very often, maybe not at all, like maybe years would pass between plays. So I just didn't feel like it was going to be one of those games that we needed to own. Particularly since it's a very popular game and chances are we probably already know people who own Fort. If we stopped and thought about it. And that's the thing, we do play games with other local gamers. which we did not play games with local gamers at the convention. All of the local gamers we know that we play random games with here and there, occasionally, none of them went to the convention. But there's a huge local gamer for Greater Houston area Discord. And a lot of those people did go to PeliCon. And what they mostly posted on there was that they were bringing games from home to play. And I was hoping to maybe get some card games in with some of them. Like I said, I brought my trusty quiver case. But I'm rambling. After Fort, I think that's when we took our lunch break, actually, because we didn't get there quite as early as we had intended. See, we didn't spend as much time Saturday because we didn't know until we were on the road that there was going to be this traffic situation. So we didn't get there. We were concerned about how long we're leaving the dogs. So we didn't get there right at the beginning of the con Saturday morning. We got there Saturday morning, but I don't even know what time. My wet hair is dripping into my eyes. So we got there sometime Saturday morning, and then we had to leave early. So after Fort, we actually took our lunch break. And then we came back, and I checked out Century Spice Road. This is a classic game. I've seen it around for ages. I know that there are a lot of different additions to it and that people like it. And I watched how to play videos ahead of time. It's like the week before PeliCon, I was binge watching videos on how to play various games that, like I said, I made a list that I wanted to try to check out from the library. Some of the games on my list never showed. They were either always checked out or they didn't make it to the con. But yeah, we checked out Century Spice Road and we played that Saturday. Saturday was a warm, sunny day. Did get foggy toward the evening, which unfortunately we got caught in because of the traffic situation. But Century Spice Road was another big hit. Both of the games that were big hits with us so far are ones involving spice trading. That just kind of coincidentally happened that way thematically. But yeah, oh, and I should mention the version of Jaipur we played is the new edition that has the Vincent Dutray artwork. But Century Spice Road had beautiful artwork too. We liked it. I've heard people say that if you get it, you should get the Gollum edition. But I researched that, and the Gollum edition, everybody says, is exactly like the other edition. The only difference is a different theme and different artwork. And honestly, I really didn't like the artwork of the Gollum edition nearly as well as Spice Road. So if you're thinking about getting that, you might want to look at the two and do your own research on it. But Century Spice Road, that's a keeper. We're definitely going to get that one. What I'm wondering now is if I should wait and try to play Eastern Wonders, because I think that there is a play copy of Eastern Wonders at our local game store. So I'm wondering, because if I like Spice Road and I like Eastern Wonders, then it would actually be better to get the big box than to get all of the different bits individually. But then there's something to be said for just keeping it simple and just playing Spice Road, which is what we played Saturday, which is what we enjoyed. You are trading spices, you are buying spice cards. They're laid out in a row, and as you go deeper into the row, you have to put a spice on there to pay to go deeper into the row of cards you choose. You choose a card. The cards have actions on it, like getting a certain number of spices when you play the card, or exchanging lower ranked spices for more valuable spices. So the card play is very smooth. It's very, oh yes, and you can buy points card, just points. So yes, because that's why you're collecting the spices, is you're trying to collect spices to get what's needed by the various point cards that are bought, and then more cards are brought out. So yeah, it's got a really smooth flow. The game mechanics are nothing gosh wow fantastic, amazing, innovative, or anything like that. I'm looking at the game mechanics. Basically, if you play hobby board games very much, all of these game mechanics are going to be stuff you've done before in other games. So, I mean, gameplay is in some ways very simple. I think I would call this a gateway game because it is very easy teach, easy learn. But I mean, it does have some strategic depth to it. But we enjoyed the heck out of that, and that is definitely one we are planning on getting. Then we went out for pizza, massive pizza. And it was sunny and warm. See, that's the thing. It was not cool at all. We have had some cold weather, and it is indeed possible for us to have cold weather or even freezes in February, though freezes are very rare. But the temperatures in February can go anywhere from cold to warm. But it was warm, like high 70s. It may have cracked 80 yesterday on the island. So yeah, it's pretty pleasant. I mean, it's a subtropical island, so yeah. So we drove to. No, we walked to. No, we didn't drive anywhere after we got there. We walked to the place where we got pizza, whose name escapes me now. There's a Kroger next to the convention center. A lot of people are just popping over to Kroger to get snacks or sushi rolls or something like that, because it's like literally just across the side street from the convention center. So that was pretty handy too. I got some Starbucks there because I just felt like I needed more caffeine to get me through Saturday. But after Century Spice Road, we looked at the games that were in the game library, and it would take too long to learn or play a lot of them, and there were a lot of games that were checked out, and we were very, very concerned about the traffic situation because everybody we talked to said they're saying, basically TxDOT and the news media had now picked up on this too, this massive can't get off the island backup of traffic. It's now 2 hours at least minimum to get off the island. So we were very concerned about being able to get home because we still had a drive once we got off the island. So we decided to do like we did the day before and just check out a game and learn how to play it that evening, and then head home. So we checked out Space Base. A lot of people say Space Base is a lot of fun, and that's why it made it onto my list. And I watched the how to play videos for it, and it seemed like it would be okay. So we laid it down and we started learning it. Somebody wandered by the table and did a teach for us, which was pretty good. We started playing Space Base. We realized that we probably wouldn't be able to play a full game of it, particularly a first game, because you're not really optimizing your turns on the first game of most games because you're still kind of getting the feel of it. And so it's like on the second and third and fourth games, we noticed this, that when we play games the first time, our scores change, like as we play the second, third, and fourth of a game. So we were not going to be like just knocking out those turns real quick on this first game and just rocketing through the rounds. So we played some, and then we noticed I was starting to make some mistakes, getting confused about the income for my rolls and the income for when he rolls, because this is one of those games where there's something for players to do on every turn. Like if one player is rolling the dice, other players can then do stuff with that dice. They can do stuff with that dice number. So they can get income off of it too. So we did a teach, we ran through some rounds, and then I just started to get punchy. I was tired, my back hurt. I do have back problems, and that does limit how long I can just sit at a table and play. And I did get up and walk around some, so that was good. But still, I think I was also kind of tense because we were just hearing more and more dire things about the ability of people to actually leave the island. So we went ahead and we checked in Space Base with the idea of checking it out Sunday morning. And then we headed for home, and the fog was already starting to roll in. The sun was like starting to look sunsetty, even though it wasn't near the horizon. It was going all orange under the fog. And we decided to take the toll bridge because 2 to 2.5 hours is what we were hearing just to get off the island Saturday afternoon and evening. So we decided to drive all the way to the west end of the island because the island is a long, thin island. It's not a big island, but it's a barrier island. It's basically built like a wall, like a little stretch thing there. So we drove all the way to the west end of the island, and we started hitting traffic backup even before we hit the toll bridge. And because other people had decided to use the toll bridge instead of trying to go over the causeway with the 2 to 2.5 hour wait. So, and also the toll bridge off of Galveston Island at San Luis Pass is the only toll bridge in the greater Houston area, which we did not realize until I'm Googling stuff stuck in traffic, that does not have electronic, license plate readers, and then they bill you afterwards. No, they have one person standing out there. He actually came out of his booth. He was out of his booth to deal with the cars and everything. He had one person standing out there taking the money from everybody or making change or whatever, like car by car by car by car. So yeah, getting off the island via the toll bridge was not fast. It was still off the island faster than going by the causeway because it only took us an hour to get off the island from the time we left the convention center until we hit the mainland. So it only took us about an hour to get off the island. But then because it dumped us out, way the heck out in Brazoria County, we then had to make our way back home, which also took a really long time. So when you total up the amount of time that was added by the circuitous route after we got onto the mainland, it probably worked out to be very close to the same amount of time as it would have taken us if we had taken the causeway. So it took us literally hours to get home on Saturday. By the time we got home, we were driving blind in the dark through fog. It was not pleasant, and it was just exhausting. We were tired from a full day of gaming and just the excitement of the convention and the tension of being in all of that traffic, and then finding our way home, and it was just, and the fog, and the roads we were on were mostly not lit by that route anyway. So that was just so unpleasant that by the time we got home, we were saying, yeah, I don't know if we're going to go back for the third day, because this construction, which takes the causeway down to one lane, was scheduled for Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. But yeah, they were planning on finishing up on Monday. So basically they just had it closed for the weekend. So yeah, we were thinking, I don't know that we can do this again. Just hours to get home. I mean, that makes this convention that is relatively nearby suddenly not an easy commute. So we slept on it, or not slept on it. In my case, I'd had way too much caffeine, so it took me a while to go to sleep. Woke up Sunday morning, and the first thing Robert said to me, because he had gotten up before I am, is the Causeway Bridge to Galveston is open. They finished up the construction overnight. So a 3-day project, after one day of putting all of the people that were going to and from Galveston through hell on Saturday, apparently, I'm guessing somebody got screamed at, and they worked all night long. Because Robert said it was still, the construction and the backup was still going on when he went to bed at 11. I crashed out early. But yeah, so I'm thinking that those people worked all night so that we could get off the island on Sunday. And I really appreciate it. If there are any TxDOT workers who are watching, I really, really appreciate the hard work you put in through the night so that we could get off the island in an expedient manner the next day. That's a thankless job, but wow, and I'm thanking you. because it made it possible for us to do the third day, because we were really thinking we're not going to do the third day. Oh, and here's the little Chihuahua. Yes, hello, Esme. Hello, Esme. So we went back on Sunday, and we got there earlier than we did the day before, and but I mean, Sunday's a shorter day. They closed up early on Sunday. I think everyone, they locked up at 6, but we didn't stay that late. But we got Obsession, and the checkout guy entered me in the play to win for Obsession. It was on my list, and it was not available for most of the weekend. And I wanted to play it. I wanted to learn it. And I didn't really want to just spend all my time just on one big game or a couple of big games. I really wanted to play a whole bunch of smaller games, but I wasn't going to lose my shot at learning and getting a shot at playing Obsession, because I've heard so many good things about it. And I'd watched a lot of how to play videos, and I thought we would really enjoy it. So we grabbed it. It was a beautiful day in Galveston. It was sunny. It was warm. It was freezing in the gaming hall. I mean, that was kind of a thing. It's like it was warm outside and cold inside. I took a flannel shirt to wear most days, but yeah, we played Obsession. We learned it and we played it. And then we stuffed our faces very quickly with pizza from the vendor that was in the entryway foyer area there, because we didn't want to, we just had a little bit of downtime to look around and do some stuff, but then we didn't want to miss the play to win drawing, since I was entered for Obsession. Yeah. Let me see, I have something written down here I can't read. But yeah, we liked it a lot. There are some finer points of gameplay and rules that I don't think that we might not have done well, or we might have just missed. But the basic turns, the basic turn order, the basic gameplay, we picked up very, very quickly. And we enjoyed it. We made jokes about the wastrels we ended up having in our hand to play. I had one who had dark moods. The flavor text is entertaining, but I think we probably would pay more attention to the flavor text and the whole immersive afternoon tea in the gazebo thing, and tennis on the lawn kind of things. I think that we would have more over-the-table banter if we hadn't just been trying to concentrate on doing everything right and as well as we could for the first playthrough. And of course, first playthroughs are always long. We had to learn the game, and the box we got, the pieces were extremely disorganized. So we spent a good chunk of time just taking things out and sorting them and trying to find all the bits that we needed to play various things. So it took us a bit of time just to get the stuff organized. Setup took a long time, finding all of the stuff and laying it out and setting it up and digging through the boxes and resorting all of the stuff that needed to be resorted into different boxes and areas, because it was kind of a mess. So yeah, it was, and there was a box for Wessex in there that was empty, but Wessex, as I understand it, is an expansion, but there were no cards there for it. So I don't know if those were supposed to be there or not. But so it took us a bit of time to actually get to the point where we started playing the game, because the box was kind of a mess and disorganized, and we didn't know what all the bits and bobs were to start with. And we had to sort everything out and figure everything out and lay out and what is this and where does that go? And oh, these are different from those. So yeah, it took us a bit of time just to get to the point where we could say, okay, now we can play the game. So that actually took up basically Sunday. Because we weren't planning on staying beyond the play to win drawing, since I was entered into it. I mean, if I hadn't been, we might have played, say, another short game. If we had played something short in the morning, then we would have had time to play another short-ish game. But because I played one big long game and it was a play-to-win game, we stayed for that, and then we just decided we would go home. But we liked Obsession. We liked it a lot. I mean, it's a fun kind of theme, very Downton Abbey, I guess. When I first heard about Obsession, somebody said it was Jane Austen era, but it's not. It's 1900s. It's pre-World War I think. So yeah, that was, or is Downton Abbey post-World War One? I don't know. I only saw a couple of episodes. So in some ways, maybe I'm not the target audience for it. But yes, it was a fun game. It was really interesting and enjoyable, and the various character cards that you come out. And I got the first Fairchild card. I was so pleased about that because I thought up till that point I thought I was not doing well, but yeah, I got the first Fairchild card. So that was good. Robert got the other one, by the way. So, and I paired my Fairchild off with a family member in my hand. We had a lot of fun at PeliCon and playing at PeliCon. The people were all nice. We chatted a little bit with local gamers, not more than just exchanging pleasantries. But we chatted more with some of the PeliCon people who were very, very nice. And as I said, very good at their job. As far as I know, they're planning on doing this again. Obsession, what did we decide about Obsession? We decided we have to have this game. This game is going to go into our collection. I know it's a big, heavier game that is somewhat longer, harder to table, because fast games on the weekends, even if we're doing other things on the weekends, shorter games, we always have time to play various shorter games. Longer games are games that it takes just a little bit more planning for us to play them, you know, to have the time to play them and to do them justice. But Obsession, it's a kind of game that I think, at least for us, would be totally worth it, like worth the cost and worth the time for setup and playtime, because we really, really enjoyed it a lot. And we are looking forward eagerly to playing it again, now that we have learned it and played through one whole thing. But we went to the play to win drawing. There were a bunch of people who names were drawn who were not there. They were going to attempt to contact them, do a second drawing, and then that's it. So since I have not heard anything, I did not win in the original drawing, and since I haven't heard anything, I'm guessing I didn't win a second drawing either. So we will be purchasing Obsession. But we had a huge amount of fun. Oh, sorry, a little hiccupy here. We had a huge amount of fun at PeliCon. I wish we had played more games, and this is why I think I did the convention a little bit wrong, because every game we played was a new game. And even though I watched how to play videos, Robert did not. So the game still had to have a teach beforehand. So if we had been playing games that we knew, or that someone we knew who could do perhaps a faster teach than our laborious self-teach with videos or from other people, because the space-based teach went very fast because we had somebody come by and teach us. Space-based. I would like to play that again when I'm not utterly tired at the end of a long day and worried about getting home. We did not get back to it on Sunday. We fully intended to, but when I saw Obsession there on the table, I was obsessed. I had to have it. So we played Obsession and did not. And by the time Obsession ended, We felt like we just, again, once again, we're up against it. We did not have time to play Space Base and go to the Play to Win drawing. I mean, it wasn't quite time for the Play to Win drawing, but we needed to eat, you know, and then go to the drawing. So yeah, so it just felt like we just did not, and we decided to go home after the drawing because there wasn't much else going on. Um, and we just had such a long day the day before, longer than it should have been from the time we left the house until we got back home to the house. So yeah, but we had a good time. It was exhausting. I highly recommend caffeine, ibuprofen, bit balls, and dice tray if you're going to a convention. Also, everybody says snacks and water. We could not bring in outside food, but they had big urns of water where we could fill cups of water or refill water bottles there in the foyer area. And there was a little kiosk that was selling snacks and and drinks. And there was the Kroger across there that had Starbucks. So I did not have tea on the weekend. I had to come home for tea. But our first board game convention is in the bag. And it looks like it's going to become an annual thing. So I'm very happy about that. I am very, very happy to have a local convention. The only thing we didn't like was the drive home Saturday night. But that had, the con ran like clockwork. They did a very, very good job running the con. That was not their fault at all. And the TxDOT people, once they realized their mistake, they worked very, very hard to make sure that it didn't happen a second day. So I appreciate that too. All in all, a very good weekend, and I've enjoyed sitting here sharing some thoughts on it with you. And you will probably be hearing more about some of the games that we played on the convention, because some of those games are going to eventually make their way to our shelves and to our table. But it was really fun. Wearing my PeliCon shirt here. And I will see y'all next time round the table. Bye.